This x-ray shows you that he has fairly significant osteophyte formation, but also bone-on-bone osteoarthritis within the shoulder. Now fortunately, we also have an MRI for him that shows his rotator cuff is intact, and that's going to be very important for our treatment. Here's his axillary view, which he's looking at from his armpit, and again we'll see bone on bone with both osteophytes in the back and osteophytes in the front. Osteophytes, of course, are bone spurs. And looking at one additional view here from the front, with his arm rotated up and out, again we can see that he clears his rotator cuff attachment zone from the overlying bony structures, but he has a large portion of the joint which is essentially bone on bone right here. It almost certainly originates from the fact that he's been a fairly heavy weightlifter over a number of years and seeking fitness through resistance training, and apparently has worn off his articular surface there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, of course, is initiate our anesthesia, because Jack would probably like if we do this procedure with anesthesia. So what I've done is I've triangulated my entry point here such that my subcutaneous area will be longer than, big stick, Jack, so my subcutaneous area will be longer than the lead portion of the fat aspiration cannula, which I'll demonstrate in just a few moments. So to start this whole process today with local anesthesia, after I mapped out the area of interest, which we've of course already done, as you can see from the lines. Okay, so that's 2% xylocaine buffered with sodium bicarbonate. I'm going to give it one paint. Now, first thing I'm going to do after the local anesthesia is kind of set it in place there is just paint the area to begin the bactericidal action. I'm going to give us a little more space right up here, just so we can always have a larger space than we really need, protecting his clothes. We don't pretend that this is the sterilizing prep right here. This is just an initial cleansing procedure. And that's so that we feel more comfortable when we're doing the local anesthesia, which we'll initiate here in just a moment. We'll let that just sit and dry. Okay, so now we're going to begin using the local anesthesia for the area. And the markings that I made before correspond with using this 6-inch needle all the way across the belly. It's 15 centimeters. And the whole point of this is to anesthetize the entire area that's previously marked, such that it's called tumescent anesthesia, so that during the course of the extraction of the fat material, we don't hurt our patient. So we're going to go through the previously anesthetized area, which hopefully he will barely feel. And as we pierce the skin here, we're going to run across the subcutaneous layer through the fat layer, which fortunately is relatively devoid of nerve endings. So I'm sure that Jack's feeling this, but probably not as much as he expected to. Is that a fair assumption? Mm-hmm. Now we're using a 0.25, diluted down to 0.25% lidocaine with epinephrine, and it's blended with, diluted down to 1/8% marcaine and bacteriostatic saline. We're using this for the subcutaneous anesthesia here. I'm going to fill up the entire region. It's a 20 gauge needle, so it is strong enough to withstand going across a fairly large excursion area. Now I'm going to actually keep it sterile just by keeping it in the subcutaneous tissue. for the needle exchange, for the syringe exchange. You have the syringe?
Yes, sir.
Only a little luck, that amount of tumescent anesthesia will be enough to have, so that he will have very little discomfort from the entire procedure. I'm going to go more to the superior portion again now. I just saw that I'm going subcutaneous enough that it almost came through the skin right up there. You can actually see the area filling up a little bit. Felt that a little bit, didn't you? Trying to get it right down too. There we go, a little membrane. Okay. And that's it. Here's our cannula. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can procure that cannula right now before we go cut the hole in.
Okie dokie. How about that? Okay, cannula is...
That's it right there, spiral to it. We can clean and sterilize these on site.
There you go.
And can have a 30cc syringe.
Okay.
This one is a 3 millimeter tulip caraway. You have 30 right there.
And oh,
You have it
sorry,
open?
sir.
It's not a
Sure
problem.
do. Okay.
Well, I'll take that one.
Why don't you take this one?
I'll just take this one instead.
Oh, goodness.
And you'll see that what we did when we did the anesthesia preparation, you can see we make sure we anesthetize it longer than our needle will go in even with pressure. So you don't have to worry about getting out of the anesthetic zone, and I'm sure that's very comforting to Jack here. Can I have a 15 blade right there?
Yes, blade.
And this is, the tip of this blade is all the width that we will need for the purpose of doing our entire procedure. Hopefully you won't feel this, but a little stab wound. Tough skin. You've been told that before, right? And that little opening is going to be all that we're going to need here. We'll leave that right now because I'm going to use that again later. But not for him anymore. So I'm going to pass this right across. If I'm hurting you, say something. I forgot to break the scissors. I'm going to pass this right across in the subcutaneous layer. And if he's well anesthetized, he'll feel what I'm doing, but it shouldn't be hurting him. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And then by moving back and forth, we're going to start to procure some of that subcutaneous fat. We're going to do it in layers. I'm going to start near the surface to begin with. Get the most difficult to procure fat, which is also the densest, right up underneath the skin. Usually the patient can actually feel this breaking through the membranes. They're repositioned now.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is the toughest anesthetizer. You not feeling that?
Yeah,
Not hurting you?
I'm okay.
Okay. Now these successive pass back and forth, they go a little bit deeper. Just so we're taking it from multiple layers. With any real luck at all, we'll be able to get our desired 30 cc's here in all 3 to 6 minutes, something like that, without hurrying. A little deeper still.
I can feel that.
You feel it now? Okay, I think it's probably a little too deep then. I can actually feel it bouncing off your abdominals. You can be so ripped after this.
I hate that, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's not as easy as getting all those old ladies, is it?
I'm afraid we have a lot to spare.
Wasn't including you in that group.
I did, though. Still volunteer some fat cells if you need it. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, be glad to.
Why don't you give me a 20 cc syringe as well? Just to see how it feels different.
Be a tighter pull, I bet, right?
I don't know, I found out. I'm gonna hand this off to you, right?
Got it.
I'm feeling much thinner.
See how much we took out of there?
I'm just gonna- There we go.
That's what it is, in about a week I'll probably be back.
This is what you eat. So you're gonna have, this is supposed to be a little tender tonight. Probably not too bad. For the next couple of days. Probably gonna bruise up, and you're gonna have like a little area in here where it's gonna be kind of firm and nodular feeling for a couple of weeks. And that should be about it.
Okay.
Feeling this or not too much?
Just a little bit.
Shoulders getting sore again.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what we've done here, though, by using the little tunnel anesthetized, little triangle approach here into our double squares. As I'm coming out, what I'm going to show you is that as I'm coming out here, is that's been the last pull. You'll hear it break the suction. So that's the last hole there, and you see that's, so as long as I was concentrating working in that zone, that was longer than our suction opening from the tip of the tube. That's pretty important if you don't want to be involved in going in and out on several occasions. 16 gauge. Anything smaller than this, you cannot get the fat through. So we're going to just make sure our alignment's still okay. And it's not as good as it was, so we're going to just reposition ever so slightly. And that should be just about ideal. Okay. We go right through the anesthetized area. And before we actually try to enter the joint, I'm going to try to take a second picture. Looking at our alignment. You see we're heading directly toward the joint cavity. And try to pierce the joint, hopefully without hurting them too much. The most anterior superior portion. And that appears to me to be in the joint. So we're going to inject some dye here. Going in nice and easily. And you see the dye goes up over the top. And then down toward the bottom. And hopefully we'll be able to get a nice picture of it coming out the bottom to verify our intra-articular position. As we can see it coming in the bottom of the sulcus there. So I am happy with that positioning. And maybe I'll get some some fluid back out, which often asks for confirmation. Yep, get a little bit of it back. Let's go a little PRP. And then we'll go to the fat and then go right back to PRP. Okay, so we put in a little bit of the platelet-rich plasma first to clear the needle and to begin to bathe the joint surface. And I'm ready for the fat now. I would not be surprised to see some of this begin to leak back out, because it does that on occasion, as you can see. Thank you. Don't even hesitate. Just reason I only put in a CC or two to begin with. And now, we put some of the fat graft in there. So I'm starting with the plunger at 11. So I'm dropping the plunger down to about 5 or 6. Which fills the joint pretty nicely. Probably beginning to feel pretty tight, isn't it? And the fat doesn't usually come out just because it's kind of plugged. Sorry about that. Put some of your fat on your bib there. And fill the joint with the rest of the PRP now. And by now it's probably feeling pretty tight. And that's the entirety of the procedure.